philosophy family that once again I have been given the chance to present my views on women and feminism. Although we can't divide, we can't bifurcate between the subject like that is women and feminism, because feminism itself means woman in a sense. So I hope that now my screen is clear. Huh? Is okay? Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Basically, we have some technical problems sometimes, so I'm sorry for this delay. So first of all, Professor Pramod Kumar Das ji, Professor Srinivasan Krishna ji, Kamana Om Narayan ji, Professor D. Pramod ji, and Professor Abdulaziz Bargot. He is the Dean, STOC, Malaysia, and many of my friends and my students and my colleagues. So happy New Year, I should say. Also Christmas. Also today we have this day and very important day, and New Year is coming. So my topic is a woman between philosophy and feminism, and what we mean by this whole story. And we talk about women, and when we talk about, especially when we are talking about feminism, what do we mean by that? So there's a very interesting book, A Short History of Women's Rights by Eugen Hecker. So he has talked about this subject from the days of Augustus to the present time, and he has given a lot of details about this. So why this feminism has taken place at all in the West, and then it has been just also adopted by the East, because we are adopting everything whichever comes from the West. So we have been also adopting this. But the conditions in which feminism was born, we have to understand that. So it was because of the atrocities against women. And in the early stage of Christianity, we may already distinguish three conceptions that were quite foreign to the Roman jurists. The inferiority and weakness of women was evident from the time of Eve, and it was an act of God that punished all womankind for Eve's transgression. Woman had been, man's evil genius. She was to be submissive to father or husband and not bring her will in opposition to theirs. She must not be prominent in public. She must consider her conduct and apparel minutely, and she was exhorted to remain a virgin, as being thus in a more exalted position. At the same time, insistence was placed on the fact that a virgin wife and widow must be given due honor and respect, must be provided for and allowed her share in taking part in those interests of the community which were considered her superior. So this is very important to understand what was the genesis of and what was the basis of this movement of feminism in the Western context. And I had the good opportunity to see the Seneca Falls where this movement has taken place. And the general opinion of the fathers regarding women present a curious mixture, and there were a lot of misconceptions, misgivings about women. The way in which women were regarded at once a blessing and a curse is well illustrated also in the district of Acidulius. So what is written there? A woman alone has been responsible for opening the gates of death. A woman alone has been the cause of a return to life. That women should be in subjection in accordance with the dictum of Paul, the church fathers assert emphatically. How can it be said of a woman that she is the image of God? Exclaims Saint Augustine, when it is evident that she is subject to the rule of her husband and has no authority. Why she can not teach, nor be a witness, nor give security, nor act in court, how much the more can she not govern? Women are commanded again and again not to perform any of the functions of men, and to yield a ready and unquestioning evidence to their husbands, their fathers, and also insist that marriage without a parental, without a paternal parent's consent is fornication. So you can see there are so many other such type of atrocities which were meted out to women. And as the fathers were very well aware of the subtle influence of dress on the sexual passions and such type of issues, as soon as the church begins to exercise an influence upon law, and then we were expecting more, problems for women. And in the year 1797, Charles Fox remarked, it has never been suggested in all the theories and projects of the most absurd speculation that it would be advisable to extend the elective suffrage to the female sex. Yet 5 years before Mary Wollstonecraft had published her Vindication of the Rights of Women, presently the writings of Harriet Martineau upon political economy provided that women could really think on politics. We may say that the general public first began to think seriously on the matter after the epoch-making Reform Act of 1832. This celebrated measure admitted $10 householders to right to vote and carefully exclude females. So women were not having their suffrage. In 1865, John Stuart Mill was elected to Parliament. That able thinker had written on the subjection of women and was ready to champion their rights. A petition was prepared under the direction of women like Messrs. Bodichon and Miss Davies. And in 1867, Mill proposed in Parliament that the word man be omitted from the People's Bill and person substituted. So this was the beginning of, I should say, the feminist movement in a sense. At the present day, women in England cannot vote on great questions of universal state policy, nor can they hold great offices of state. Yet their gains have been enormous, as she says, as I shall next demonstrate. In 1850, Ontario gave all women school suffrage. In 1867, New South Wales gave them municipal suffrage. So we can say that it took a lot of time, and I have given the details, when women were given different rights. Otherwise, they were denied all these rights. In 1893, New Zealand gave full suffrage. In 1894, parish and district suffrage was given in England. So I have given the details about that. At the present moment, the cause of women's suffrage in England is being furthered chiefly by two organizations which differ in methods. The National Union of Women's Suffrage Studies has adopted a constitutional or peaceful policy, but the National Women's Social and Political Union is militant and coercive in this way. Any research into the validity of slavery will force led the investigators to inquire into the justice of the enforced status of women. And the two causes were early united. Women like Angelina and Sarah Grimke and Lusrika Rushdie were pioneers in numerous anti-slavery conventions and declaration of sentiments. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one portion of the family of man to assume among the people of the earth a position different from that which they have hitherto occupied, but one to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to such a course. So this was also very important declaration of sentiments. The history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and assumptions on the part of men toward women, having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over her. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. So these are some of the points which have been mentioned by the scholars who wanted to uphold the rights of women. So he has compelled her to submit to laws in the formation of which she had no voice, and he has made her inquiry in the eye of the law civilly dead. He has taken from her all rights and property, even to the wages she earns. He has made her morally an irresponsible being, as she can commit many crimes with impunity, provided they be done in the presence of her husband. So these are the points which were just raised by the scholars about the atrocities which were met out to women. He has so framed the laws of divorce. So everything is being said that man has done all these things to women, and I have given all the details about that. And such was the defense of the Women's Rights Convention in 1848. Other conventions were held. So it was in Rochester where I had the chance to go in 2017, and in 1853, and at Albany in 1854, the movement extended quickly to other states and touched the quick of public opinion. It bore its first good fruits in New York in 1848 when the property bill was passed. This law amended in 1860 and entailed an act concerning the rights and liabilities of husbands and wife. So thus New York became the pioneer. The movement separate as we can understand with the amazing rapidity, but it was not so informally successful. Conventions were held, and the course of events as it has been described in the New York and Ohio is practically the same in the case of other states. And I have given all the details because there is no time to discuss all these issues. And 6 years later, on November 1872, Miss Susan B. Anthony did a far more audacious thing. She went to the polls and asked to be registered. So I had the chance also to go to this place also in New York, and where this movement has taken place. Immediately after the decision in her case, the inspectors who had registered the woman were put on trial because they did knowingly and willfully register a voter of said district, one Susan B. Anthony. She said Susan B. Anthony then, and there no not being entitled to be registered as a voter of said district, in that she said Susan Anthony was then and there a person of the female sex. So you can see they were not even allowed to register such type of cases. And then I have just given details about the publication of women in Western political thought. In this book, we can find the landmark of feminist political theory. So in this book, Oken's work, she has talked about the philosophers' attitude towards women, the attitude of women towards women, and then starting from Plato, Aristotle, Rousseau, John Stuart Mill, and others. She concludes that for each of these theorists, woman's role is defined exclusively by her function in the patriarchal family, and specifically her productive role. She argues that this functionist attitude towards women is an integral rather than an incidental part of these theories. So philosophers have also highlighted these theories. Religions have also talked much about women. And it was in this backdrop that this movement like feminism has started. Among the male philosophers considered important in that tradition, only Plato and John Stuart Mill seriously challenged received philosophical notion about women. These exclusions and dismissals have inevitably led to a project which is the basis of what is now called feminist philosophy. Many feminists argue that the traditional assumption that the male is the norm or ideal of humanness has shaped philosophical concepts, questions, and theories which now need to be critically challenged. The English philosopher John Stuart Mill, I have talked about him and what he has talked about women. And although Marxist feminism is one of the most popular strains of feminist thought, the writings of Karl Marx himself lack both a coherent, sustained, and plausible account of the nature and origins of women's oppression, and a precise articulation of an alternative to patriarchal gender roles. However, Friedrich Engels, Marx's fellow German philosopher and the co-author of his 1848 pamphlet, The Communist Manifesto in 1884, wrote an essay on the family that contains some surprising insights in the nature of gender oppression. For example, under capitalism, he says the modern family is based on the open or disguised enslavement of the woman. Engels spells out the connections between the nature, creation, and development of family structures on one hand and property relations on the other. Nietzsche, among other 19th century philosophers, the German thinker, is perhaps most notorious for misogynist remarks. For example, in his famous aphorism from the 1886 work, Beyond Good and Evil, he declares that from the beginning, nothing has been more alien, repugnant, and hostile to women than truth. Her great art is the lie. Her highest concern is mere appearance and beauty. One of Nietzsche's main influences was Arthur Schopenhauer, whose 1851 essay on women avers one need only look at the woman's shape to discover that she is not intended for either too much mental or too much physical work. He continues, women are directly adapted to act as the nurses and educators of our early childhood for the simple reason that they themselves are childish, foolish, and short-sighted. He gives evidence for the characterization and other things like that. So these were philosophers, and I have given the details of other philosophers and then what Western view about women has been. In the same way, the position of women has not improved in the Western part of the world, despite the orchestrated propaganda about the freedom of women and abundance of feminist movements, which are spreading their circles. So it has not helped still. The women were supposed to have been created to feel rather than reason. Rousseau was opposed to the idea of providing women with the same education as men. And Wollstonecraft has depicted the picture of the pathetic situation of the affairs of women during the 18th century in the following manner. Civilized women are so weakened by false refinement that respecting morals, their condition is much below what it would have been were they left in the state of nature. She held that women, like men, were naturally rational, but their inferior education often taught them to be silly and emotional. Education, she believed, should cultivate the natural reasoning capacity in girls. In early 19th century, the vast majority of women throughout the Europe and the United States still had no legal identity apart from their husbands. She could not own property on her name. Both white women and African Americans were regarded as intellectually inferior and denied access to a decent education. Such are the partial laws enacted by men for only to lay a stress on the dependent state of women in the grand question of the comforts arising from the position of property. She is even in this article much more injured by the loss of the husband's affection than he by that of his wife. Yet where is she, condemned to the solitude of a deserted home, to look for a compensation from the woman who seduced him from her? She cannot drive an unfaithful husband from his house, nor separate or tear his children from him, however culpable he may be. And he is still the master of his own fate, enjoys the smiles of world that would brand her with infamy. Did she, seeking consolation, venture to retaliate? So this is some of the remarks of the author of The Vindication of the Rights of Women, and that's another book which she has written. But the misfortune is that many women only submit in appearance and forfeit their own respect to secure their reputation in the world. And she has talked about that. The tender mother cannot lawfully snatch from the grip of the gambling sycophant or beastly drunkard, unmindful of his offspring. And then we have American socialist reformer Elizabeth Cady Stanton addressing the New York State legislature on February 18, 1860, while comparing the women with the black African Americans who were being discriminated because of their color. She laments that the women are worse sufferers than the blacks because of their sex. The Negro sex and the women's the Negro skin and the woman's sex are both prima facie evidence that they were intended to be subjugation to the white Saxon man. And she says further, terrible are the penalties we are now suffering for the ages of injustice done to women. Undo what man did for us in the dark age and strike all legislation which has been made for women by him. She exhorts women to do. She complains of the listless inactivity and enable man to acquire the noble privilege of reason. And because then the right to vote, she was given later on, and it was in 1960s, the civil rights movement gained ground when African Americans struggled to achieve racial equality. Women were inspired to renew their struggle for equality. So there was a long strike for and struggle for getting their rights. And we have people like Annie Bradstreet and Annie Besant and other women. Feminism in this way is a social movement that seeks equal rights for women. Widespread concern for women's rights dates back from the Enlightenment. One of the first important expressions of the movement was Mary Wollstonecraft's Vindication of the Rights of Women, 1792. The 1848 Seneca Falls Convention, convened by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, and others, called for full legal equality with men, including full educational opportunity and equal compensation. Thereafter, the women suffrage movement began to gain momentum. However, it faced partially stiff resistance in the United Kingdom and the United States, where women gained the right to vote in 1918 and 1920 respectively. By mid-century, a second wave of feminists emerged to address the limited nature of women's participation in the workplace and prevailing notions that tended to confine women to the home. A third wave of feminism arose in the late 20s and was notable for challenging middle class white feminists and for broadening feminist goals encompass equal rights for all the people, regardless of race, creed, economic or educational status, physical appearance or ability or sexual preference. So you can understand the unfortunate result which can come to fore because of the unbridled approach of the feminists are alarming now. So now this was the genesis of the movement of feminists. But later on, when it became unbridled, so there came some, such type of developments came to fore, and some of the feminists have even challenged the agenda of the feminists themselves. So we can see, for example, Melanie Phillips says, mention feminism to most people and their reaction will probably be one of the fairly amused. Indifference. Some men may be irritated by feminist rhetoric. Some women might feel their agenda is a little extreme, but the extent to which feminism in its most extreme form has embedded itself within the institutions and thinking of Britain has not been grasped. Feminism has become an unchallengeable orthodoxy which drives forward the whole program of domestic social policy in Britain. Yet this orthodoxy is not based on concepts of fairness and or social solidarity. It is based on hostility towards men. So it took under form later on the idea that the social roles and conceptions of what constitute masculine and feminine traits denote constructs rather than natural categories was popularized by the well-known American anthropologist Margaret Mead. She tried to show that culturally humans are like a blank slate and that human behavior is almost entirely shaped by social and cultural processes. Mead argued that men and women are not the same culturally in all societies, that the so-called masculine and feminine traits are socially constructed and that some culture accentuate the differences between men and women more than others. Mead's view that biological differences between men and women cannot be said to determine gender roles, and the gender roles are essentially social constructs, had a profound influence on the conceptualization of gender and on the feminist movement in the West. Though it cannot be denied that social and cultural factors play a highly important role in the construction of gender roles and identities, the point cannot be stretched too far. The assumption of cultural determinism implicit in Mead's views takes a one-sided look at the complex dynamics of human behavior and ignores the role of human agency. So these are some of the, and according to Simon Bois, philosophy of the second sex, women have been allocated the portion of the second sex, a sex that is secondary and inferior to the first and absolute sex, which is the same male sex. Women have been defined negatively, and hence Boer's philosophy is directed at Aristotle's philosophy of the female sex, defined as lacking features of the superior male sex that laid the ground for traditional Western philosophy misgiving. Boer's view of the feminine in the history of philosophy has been a mainstream view in contemporary feminist philosophy. Irigaray, on the other hand, maintains that women in Western philosophy have not even had a portion of an other sex, insofar as have only been an other to the male sex, and other of the same a sex in which the male sex mirrors itself to elevate itself, as she argues in her book, Spiculum of the Other Woman. And then I have given some more details about Irigaray. On the other hand, maintain that women in Western philosophy have not even the portion of the second sex. Feminist historians have also suggested that their mechanical natural philosophy developed during the scientific revolution, and in many ways characteristics of it was a masculine kind of natural philosophy that replaced the more feminist, hostile, vitalist and magical worldviews that had preceded it. And debates about feminist epistemologies in science are continuing, and they have said that even scientists have not done justice to women. And the unbalanced and unjustified campaigns sometimes started by the feminists have resulted in a very unfortunate backlash for the men, and there is a reaction to that as well, very much perceptible in the West itself. There are now dozens of studies that show that women are as violent towards their partners, if not more so than men. Study after study show women are not merely violent in self-defense, but strike the first blow in about half of all disputes. The American social scientist Moray Strauss and Richard Gillis reported from two large national surveys that husbands and wives had assaulted each other at approximately equal rates, with women engaging in minor acts of violence more frequently. Elsewhere, they found more wives than husbands were severely violent towards their spouses. Moreover, there is now considerable than men. In other words, as women have become independent of men, they have also become more violent towards them because men have become dispensable. Another underreported fact is that most violence against children is committed by their mothers, not their fathers. So you can see that there have been some backlashes also to the feminist movement, and I have tried to give it a religious background, philosophical background, and then what was the backlash and what were the extremes from both the sides. At one glance, feminist, a once noted feminist, German girl, has this to say about the fate of her idealism. She says, I did not fight to get women out from behind the vacuum cleaner to get them onto the board of Hoover. And then Marx and Engels have talked about them. And a famous novelist, the Deslin, says for the same reason, men seem to be so cowed that they cannot get fight back. And it is time they did. She calls the feminist women actress as the most stupid and nasty woman, although she herself was supporting the feminist agenda once. Camilla Pagula, a famous feminist, says that after indulging in the campaign of spittle and knitting needles against men, the feminists have already lost their cherished objectives. The first ever all-women convention on women's rights, attended by 300 delegates, ended in Seneca on 1840 with demands for universal suffrage and social discrimination against them. But later on, it could not keep the pace, and I have given some impact of this movement in different countries, especially in Muslim countries. And for example, in the Muslim world, generally, it refers to a heightened awareness on the part of Muslim women about the constraining influence of traditional gender roles. It also encompasses a critique of the overbearing domination of the patriarchal system, which is invariably intertwined with the subordination of women and women's endeavor to redefine and reinterpret a more just and equitable role for themselves. Muslim feminists place a great deal of emphasis on equality and complementary roles of men and women at home and in the public sphere, equal opportunities for education and employment and political rights. The Egyptian feminist Huda Shawi was a prominent advocate of women's rights who forcefully argued in favor of their emancipation from the shackles of customs and traditions. And there have been other women activists like Amna Wudud and Asma Barla and others. On the other hand, against the claims of the feminists, the condition of women was not improved in an appreciable way anywhere, nor in the West, not in the East. Although they have been fighting for their rights in many ways, thousands of working women came to the roads in protest against exploitation perpetrated by the mill owners on the March 8, 1857. They were forced to work 18 hours a day without any relaxation. More than 1 million men and women took out various rallies in Australia, Denmark, Sweden, and USA on March 8, 1911, demanding rights to vote, and that was there. And then I have given some more details about this this feminist movement in different parts of the world, and I have shown how philosophy and how religions in the Western context especially, they have compelled women to protest against the subjugation of women, and they are showing them down by different legislations. So then there was a natural reaction, but this was just a reaction, and reaction is not always rational. It has some side effects also. It has some weakness as well. So in this way, we find that feminist movement could not keep up with its ideals, and even from some feminists, many people emerged and they opposed this movement. And there were many aspects which were just being discussed at different parts of the world so far as feminists, because there was not one type of agenda. Rather, there were different type of agendas which were espoused by the feminist movement, and it has not just kept itself that much viable and that strong as it once was. And we find in modern times it faces a lot of problems in different parts of the world. And I had also participated in one of the international conferences at USA, and that was on women, religion, and feminism. And I found that now people are just trying to see the role of religion as well in the context of East, not only West. And it was in the context of the Christianity to a great extent that this movement just emerged. And then it was just emulated by the people in the East. And it was not the product of the East at all. It was basically, it started in the West, and still the women could not get their rights as theirs. But insofar as East is concerned, in the East we have women are being given rights, and we can't just apply all the canons of feminist movement on the eastern part of the world. And we have to differentiate between the feminism which has emerged in the West and East, and we have to keep the differences between the two cultures and the patterns and civilizational modes in view when we are talking about feminist. It is not a universal I should say movement in that way, although it had impact universally, no doubt in that, and it has tried to mitigate the problems of women which they were facing. But it should have not taken their stance against women and men. Rather, men and women together had to work for the emancipation and giving the rights to women, rather than posing them each other against each other. And in this way, in this antagonistic atmosphere, the women was more suffering because of that. Because in our context, men are considered to have to take care of the rights of the women, and women have to also take care of the rights of their men, whether they are children, whether they are sons, whether they are husbands, and whether they're fathers. So in this way, we have to make difference between these two norms and paradigms of feminism, which have emerged in the West and the East. Since because of the paucity of time, and I would like that there should be some discussion, because this is a very interesting topic. And inshallah, in next lecture, I will be talking also women and religion. And previously, I had given a talk on philosophy and women, and I have shown that philosophers have not done justice with women at all, and they have just mentioned some derogatory theories about that. And we have talked about that in detail in last lecture. And inshallah, in next lecture, I will be talking about women and religion. And in this way, we can juxtapose the positions of feminists and the religions and the philosophers, and try to see what is the best course for the woman, and how she can live a dignified life, and how she can cooperate with their counterparts, male counterparts, in order to make this place safer place for women as well as men. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your beautiful lecture. You have tried to look into the issue of women, taking into consideration the entire history, wherein the women all over the world have fought for their rights, and you try to see this from the women seeking for their political rights, for their voting rights, and then you try to see how the liberation movements that that were there throughout the world, wherein the women claim for a discrimination-free society, or discrimination-free family, or uh, 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 and then again, moving to the last pages, you tried to see that even the feminist movement has been there, but it could touch only a limited few, but a large section of women are still neglected, even in this feminist wave. And again, you try to show that how religion and philosophy has, to the large extent, have neglected the issues of women, and how discrimination was allowed. But you again try to show that the philosophies, the emerging philosophies, and new interpretations of religions would come forward to make to ensure the proper rights to women, and to ensure how discrimination against women is sorted out. So, well, it's a nice area to discuss. Well, we have with us Professor Ghosh. Let me invite him for his observations. Thank you, Professor Marazi, for your nice lecture. Welcome, Professor Ranjit Ghosh, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. As usual, Professor Marazi has given a very nice exposition of feminism and women. And as he is telling that he will be exploring on women and religion in his next lecture. But I think since today is a very important day in the Christianity, and let us start with that, because you see, in the Bible, it is said that Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a virgin, and through the power of God, Jesus was created and he was born. And similarly, we find in Mahabharata, in Kunti, we find all these characters. They are just coming out of the powers of different gods. Now, the thing is whether that God is masculine or feminine in religion. In most of the religions, you see, in Christianity, in Bible itself, God is created as masculine. And so also in all the major religions of the world, you will find that God, whether it is God or Allah or whosoever it may be, the masculine, God is masculine in nature. That is how it has been expressed. Now then the question arises that where from the idea of God comes, whether God created the universe or universe created the God. So that is how we find everything comes under a type of sociological framework of religious practices. Because you see, we have to independently, we have to test each religion independently whether the gender equality is maintained there or not. Now, going back to again Christianity, you see that what we have seen, that God has created two, male and female, Adam and Eve, with the equal power. But is that equal power is maintained? And if that be the case, then how during the medieval age we find that women are, as you have told, that they are treated as the gateway to hell? So this is how we find that in the medieval age itself, the emergence of Catholic philosophy, we find the role of women has been very, very subjugated to the role of from the role of man, because everything is coming out of the patriarchal mindset right from the beginning. You see, who is the creator of the gods and goddesses in Hinduism? We say it is Brahma. Brahma is the ultimate creator who creates all these gods and goddesses. So, but one thing I must say, that in Hinduism, is the only religion where you find the equal status of men and women. Because from the very beginning of, if we try to enter deep into it, we will find that there is a gender equality all through. Whether that is maintained or not, that's a different issue. That's why I said that in religion you find something else, in common practice you find something else, something other. So in this way, way, what I suggest that this the male domination or the patriarchal mindset will always be there. We just cannot ensure gender equality in our social and religious practices. This is just a far cry, I should say, because the feminists, they are clamoring for it, but has they actually achieved anything? No. So this is how I view the entire thing, and please enlighten us more on this issue. Thank you.
Professor Ghosh, you always, mashallah, have such insightful observations on all the lectures, and we are enlightened by your, observations always. We have also Professor Bargot Abdulaziz. He's a great scholar of Islamic studies and Islamic civilization. So we may listen also something from him later on. So, but so far as your question is concerned, basically, as per my understanding, because here I was just dealing only with the feminist approach, but just it came, I was just talking in the context of the feminist philosophy, why it emerged at all. If women are given good rights and they are being provided all the good, things which they deserve, then I don't think so there could have been any protest. As you said rightly that there were such type of legislations which were made by the church. For example, I am not opposed to any religion because every religion has its own credentials and its own claims and its own proofs and evidences for its truthfulness, and we don't need to ridicule any religion, and we should respect each and every religion and the sentiments of the people. As an objective study of the phenomenon, why this feminist philosophy emerged at all in the Western context. It was because sometimes as Professor, Krishnamurti was saying that the teachings may be very good, ideals may be very good, and the practice is not good. For example, church was just thinking about women that they are the gateway to hell, and they were saying that she is the temptress because she has made Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And she became the reason for our coming to this world. And we are like the fallen angels. And we have committed the original sin through woman. And she is temptress in that way. And then why they don't marry, they don't appreciate marriage, because they said women will lead us to evil and sin again, original sin. So I will not go in detail about that. But my perception about religion is that religion had been so pure and so good all along. But people have just mixed so many things from the superstitions and mythology into religion. And some of the religious men and the clergy, they have added many things in the corpus of religion, which was not religious at all, which was man-made, and there were some pernicious and personal and I should say sadistic aims and objectives of these people because of their personal, whims and wishes and desires and lusts sometimes. And they just converted a good thing that was considered to be religion into a very vicious thing for women. And then scientists had also protest against that. And then came to for the Enlightenment and Renaissance. And women had to also protest against that. Then came the feminist philosophy. And then we had philosophers like, Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche. And we had Bertrand Russell, Why I'm Not a Christian. And so many books which have been written by the people from the West itself. And the reason was that something wrong was done to the original teachings of the religion. And then this was the protest. And in a sense, we can say that this feminism was also protest against the atrocities meted out to women on the name of religion, philosophy, and what. And I have talked about philosophy already. Philosophers have not done any justice to women as well. But religion had done justice to women. And as you said, so far as, for example, when we say about Islam, Islam says that women and men have been created from one nafs, one self, one soul, and they are equal. An-nisa'u shaqaiqu rijal. Women are their counterparts of women, men. And it has been said, Inna khalaqnakum min zakrin wa unsa. O people of the world, we have created you from one pair of man and woman. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And you have been created into clans and tribes so that you may understand each other, know each other. And in akramakum indallahi atqakum, the best among us is a person, woman or man, who is good in the behavior, not because of gender. And woman yamal salihan, min zakri wa unsa, falanuhyiyannahu hayatan tayyiba. Whether men or women who are doing pious actions, we will make them to live a very good life. So no description is made between women and men, it's say. But to say that men have created everything or women have not done, this is just a debate in modern times. It was not, this debate was not going on in medieval times or ancient times. So in modern, now we call women not she, not he, but person. We call person. So nothing wrong in that. Women are also very important. There have been, for example, in Quran, there is one complete chapter on Mary, as you were mentioning. Complete chapter on Mary. And she has been considered the leader of all women of the world, Quran says. So in this way, there have been noble women and there have been noble men. So we can't discriminate men or women because of their gender. And to do this is totally, I should say this is a partial view, and there's a very limited and narrow-mindedness to consider people because of their gender, good or bad. Their actions speak louder than what has been attributed to them. This debate has been just as they start in the West in modern times in the context of the feminism, whether we can call, and then we say whether God is man or God is woman. I feel that God is, he is gender neutral. He should be above these limitations. And if we make God this and that, then what is the difference between man and woman? So we are just bringing God, reducing God to the humanity and other things, and that is going to degrade the states of God. God has to be away from these all limitations. Men have limitations, women have limitations, but God is limited without limitations. So in this way, we can't make these things as something criterion of goodness or badness of any. Every religion in this sense is very good, but because of the misuse of the religion, the practice of the people, and when I will be talking about religions, I will just bring some more facts about all the religions about women. And this time I was just dealing with only the feminist aspect. Otherwise, I would have mentioned some of the practices which have been prevalent there in all the religions, which are anti-women. And Muslims also sometimes do this, and Hinduism also people have done this, and Sikhism and Buddhism, such practices which are anti-women. But that was not the actual message of the religion at all. As is true of religions, I say. Because religions always want to maintain the dignity of women and men, because they are the creations of God. And being the creations of God, they are very noble, they are very nice. But people have just degraded their status because of different reasons. So in this way, we can discuss that when I'll be talking about the religion and women, and at that time we'll be discussing all these issues. Here I was just dealing only with the feminist, philosophy and how it has emerged and what was the backdrop of its emergence. So, but your comments were very important, and I will just keep those in mind while I'll be revising this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Marazi.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes. We move to Dr. Pramod because he was raising his hand. Then we move to Swagatika Das. Professor Pramod. Then we move to Swagatika Das.
I agree with the professor as well as I agree with the professor and Hamid Rafibal, Nasim Rafibal, as well as Ranjit Ghosh. Women play a major role, important role in the universe. Without women, universe does not exist. Without women, family does not exist. They are equally important roles. As he said, even Lord Lakshmi sits with Lord Vishnu. They're equal roles, but there is a family differences. So we have to be equally important to both of them. Both are equal responsible, equal roles to play in the society. Thank you, sir.
Very nice. So roles are very important, not the gender. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move to Swagatika Das. Well, Swagatika, please. Swagatika Das. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
It was a nice presentation, sir. Here I would like to ask two questions. My first question is there any difference between feminism and women? Second question is, what is the status of women in Plato's philosophy?
I had already discussed about Plato last lecture in detail. So today I will just like to relate about this feminism and women. Had feminism and women been one, then there would have been only one stream of feminism. There are so many streams of feminism. There is, for example, first wave, second wave, third wave feminism, black feminism, Islamic feminism, atheistic feminism, Marxist feminism, and so many liberal feminism. In this way, there is a plethora of feminist philosophies, and every one philosophers tried to interpret women in their own way. So in this way, we can't say that women and feminism is one and the same thing. But we can say that feminist philosophy has tried to advocate the rights of women, starting from suffrage, and then equal rights of women in political, sphere, and in educational matters, in economic matters, in legal matters. So in this way, we can say that feminism is the philosophy which has advocated the problems of women as a gender, and women as a social class, and women as a I should say the counterpart of man in a sense, because according to feminist philosophy, so the patriarchy and the men have always interpreted everything in their own favor, whether if they were scientists, whether they were theologians, whether they were philosophers. They have not done justice with women, and they have tried to just show women low. And as has been said by Stanton and others, that woman has been created to smile in the way of man, and she can only feel, she can't reason. So this was the basic point which they have protest against. So in this way, there is difference between feminism and women. And so far as Plato is concerned, I have already discussed about that in detail. He has talked about that friends should have common two things. One is property and the woman. And then the communism of why was that? Communism of property is very famous. You might have heard about that. And then philosopher king, what type of philosopher king should be there, and what should be the role in this republic of Plato. So that we have discussed already. So even he has not done justice to woman and her status. And then Aristotle also, he was thinking that there are two type of properties. One is animate and second is inanimate. So the slaves and the women, they are the animate property. And so many other things he has talked about that. And other philosophers, as I have discussed in the last lecture, they have also talked negatively about women. And it was in that backdrop that the feminists have protested against philosophy, and also some of the religious and theological views which were expressed about women, or the legislations which were made against women's status and their honor and their respect, and they have just protested against that. And in this way, this feminist movement became the protest movement against all these atrocities or injustice meted out to women as a gender.
Thank you, Professor Marazi. Let's move to
Greeks were outright misogynist. All
Correct.
this, that's why Aristotle even debarred women from citizenship.
Correct.
Okay. So
And
they were
there's an
outright misogynist.
interesting story about him, that he had two wives, and he used to say that women have only 18 teeth, and because his wives have never shown him their teeth, so he was thinking that they have only 18 teeth. This is just joke, but such was the misinformation and disinformation about women even among the Greeks. And Professor Ghosh is right that they were debarred from the citizenship in the republic. Okay.
over to Krishnamurti sir. Yes, Krishnamurti sir, please.
Thank you for the opportunity, moderator, beautiful moderator, Professor Dr. Om Narayan Rao. And I'm extremely thankful to my dear friend and professor, His Excellency Professor Hamidulla Marazi, for his excellent presentation.
Your Excellency, sir. I am just student.
Yeah, lucid presentation about the history of feminism and women in the past and present. But my question, I'm sorry, I would like to have a clarification, not a question, that you did not touch upon the question of feminism in LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender rights in India, especially, it has been evolving rapidly in recent years. However, the Indian LGBT citizens face certain social and legal difficulties not experienced by non-LGBT persons. There are no legal restrictions against gay sex or expression. First of all, the discrimination of protection, sexual orientation and gender identity protections. And then the military has banned from serving openly in the military. The limited cohabitation of the rights. The homosexuality has been given license from 2018 as recently as in 2022 also. So there is a great lot of things happening around feminism in India, But that is not just sufficient, because still we are speaking about the patriarchy, then the matriarchy, I mean, confusing with the religion, which is not supposed to happen. When you expect to have a pluralistic society, the society must be devoid of all this caste, creed, and religion. Religion plays a crucial role, whether it is a Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu. They must live cohabitually and then work with each other harmoniously for the progress of the country. This is my, perception and idea, and I would request you to have your clarification on these points, sir, please.
Thank you, sir. It's a very good question. LGBT, now it has been just at in many countries in the West and in East and even in India itself. Although many problems are being faced, especially the neutral gender, I should say, or the third sex or the third gender. They are also facing a lot of problems, but their rights and their whatever they deserve, their rights should be protected. Because, but so far as LGBT is concerned, there have been some religious concern about that, but here there is no time to discuss about the nitty-gritty of the whole process. But I think that in the context of the feminism, we can talk about these also, because feminists have discussed these issues in detail. But since I was just dealing only with the philosophical aspect of feminism, and I wanted to show the genesis of the subject and wanted to show from very beginning how it has emerged. What was the reason for its emergence, and in the backdrop of its religious background and also its philosophical background, I was just trying to contextualize it. So for that reason, I did not touch the modern problems which are being faced by different people like LGBT people and other such type of people. So my concern was more with the philosophical aspects of feminism and its emergence. So I did not deal with the practical problems which are being faced by feminists or also by the LGBT, and how it is being implemented at different parts of the world and also in our own country. So this was my limitation here. But there needs to be a separate talk on the subject, because this deserves a complete discussion, this subject.
One thing you see, this continental feminists, Simon de Weber and all these European feminists, they are in the other extreme of the Greeks, because they were misogynist outright, and they are now propagating another type of which is not congenial for the social interaction. This is what I believe. Thank you.
You're right, and there have been some reactions even from the feminists. Now the men are now at the receiving end. Previously it was women. So this is second extreme. We have to strike balance somewhere where we can meet and have dialogue, whether men or women, and we have to help. Whether women are being discriminated or men are being discriminated, we need to voice our concern for all the oppressed classes, marginalized, whether they are the slaves, whether they are the women, they are the blacks, and even minorities. So in this way, whosoever is being discriminated, whether on the name of gender or on the name of region or on the name of creed, we need to voice our concern and not make it specific to gender only. There are injustices because of different reasons, not only because of gender, and women and men have to join their hands in order to espouse a cause of justice for all. So that's very important, and especially in the context of East. So we have been doing it, and as you mentioned, women have been also at the forefront, and they were very important people in the religious scriptures, and they have interpreted religion, and their role has been very important in our histories. So how we can deny their right, or how we can deny them their status and stature in social life, or as well as in the religious life or the spiritual life, because women and men both are spiritually elevated by God, and they are both the creatures of God. And in this way, we don't need to espouse everything whatever comes from East or West, and that is based on small messianic or patriarchal notions which have been just voiced or which have been propagated and floated by different people under different guises. So in this way, we need to have a harmonious society where men and women are living together and helping each other rather than being a daggers drawn against each other. And that will not make our world a harmonious world where the children can also live with peace, because children are very sufferers when there is fighting among men and women. And finally, it is the family which suffers. Although there have been feminists who do support family, and they say family is our worst enemy and it has snatched our all freedom and everything. And we have been subjugated to men because of marriage, and they are against marriage even, and they are against all those institutions I should say marriage and family and this and that. So this is something which we need to understand.
Well, Professor
I would
Pramod,
like that is Professor Aziz Bargot is there. He is professor from Malaysia, and I would like, because he is a good scholar of social sciences, and if he also wants to make some comments, and that will be
welcome,
most
welcome,
welcome.
welcome. Yes, yes.
Dr. Abdulaziz Bargot is the Dean Stock, Malaysia, a very good scholar. Yeah, he can also deliver some very good talk because he has been delivering very good lectures. I have listened several of his lectures. If he's there.
Professor, sir, please name again, sir, please. Professor Bhatt.
Professor Abdulaziz Bargot.
Professor, sir,
Abdulaziz.
but I don't see him now, sir, in the chat.
He's there. But his name is there.
Yes, Professor, yes, Professor Abdul Aziz, please, welcome, sir. Please share your views so that we can learn from you, sir. Professor Abdul Aziz. Professor, well, maybe some technical issue.
Maybe some connectivity problem, I think.
Well, in the meantime, we'll welcome our admin, Professor Pramod Kumar Das, who wants to say something. Well, yes.
Yes, I think this is the masterpiece of Professor Marazi. He has delivered so many talks, but this talk is very clear and very informative also, and very inspiring. The greatness of women, greatness, that they are humble, they are simple, they are submissive, they are creative, and they are loving. This is the greatness of a woman. And the meanness of men is that they are egocentric, arrogant, dominating. This is the general discrimination. If you analyze, there may be some exceptions, but if you make a distinction between male and female, psychologically, biologically, even you may take a medical test also, you can see this difference. Generally, women are loving, caring, innocent, humble, simple, and generally, the male counterpart, they are aggressive, dominating, etc. Irrespective of religions. Irrespective of religions. If we take two counterparts, male and female, this is the general tendency. Out of that discrimination, we have created our religion, we have created our society, we have created our literature. Because male are dominating, because male are aggressive, we have made our religion accordingly. We have made our literature accordingly. And we have made our society, social norms, social customs accordingly. Therefore, there is a movement for feminism. Therefore, there is an occasion for discussing about feminism. As if we are doing very kind to women, that we are giving them the opportunity that please come to the mainstream. You are neglected. We are neglecting, and we are giving the slogan that women are neglected. I always surprised why women are crying for equality. And many times I have said that they are far better than male counterparts because the female creates both male and female. The mother creates both the male child and female child. So, and this is also said by Professor Marazi very clearly that something is professed by religions that women should be respected. Religion should be gender neutral. All these things are there in the religious in the record of religion. But in practice, we we do not do that. In practice, we do the different. We behave differently. So this is the general psyche that is found in our family, in every family, even female also neglects the female. That is also an irony. So why female are so neglected? This is a mystery. This is a question, and psychologists say that they are women are the object of beauty. Women from the biological standpoint, they are the object of enjoyment. All this, as Professor Maraji spoke about Plato and Aristotle, how they have treated women, how they have portrayed women in their philosophy and literature. So I think that should not be. That should not be. And Ranjit Ghosh sir said very beautifully that, and also Professor Maraji said that God or Brahman, that is gender neutral. They are neither male nor female. So we should not make any comparison between any religion. But I see in every religion, to some extent, Hinduism may be exceptional, but in many religions it is found that the religion is male dominated. This is very pathetic. Our society is male dominated. Our literature is also like that. Philosophy is also like that. In the last talk, Professor Maraji said that even philosophers have not given justice to females, in spite of the legal provisions, in spite of the so many provisions from the legal side. So this is the irony. So the problem is our psychology. The problem is our inner respect for a woman. We should respect our mother. We should respect our sister. We should respect our mother earth. We should respect nature, so that we can inculcate that honor for a woman. And that is real education. If we do not respect women, if we don't have any respect for the source of all creation, then we are not educated. This is my submission, but I am really happy that Professor Maraji very beautifully presented his talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So nice, sir.
Thank you, Professor Das, for your observations. I see one thing. The waves of feminism that Professor Maraji spoke of. Feminism, no doubt, it has assured some political rights. It has given the citizenship right. It has given the voting rights, and discrimination to an extent has been sorted out. I don't say it has been completely eliminated. And the waves, the feminist movement, I could see that it could not touch the entire population of women. If at all it could touch only elevated few. And among this elevated few, they have gone to that an extent. Again, I don't know whether I'm right in saying this, that there again a cry from the male side that we are discriminated. So this is the crisis. So feminist movement is good, but this feminist movement is not entering deep into the larger section of women. If at all the movement is there, it has been restricted to a selected few. This is one of the problems that we need to understand. It has not reached each and every woman. At large, women are neglected. Okay, so the feminist movement, if at all it has to succeed, it has to enter into a larger circles of women. And if at all it has entered into a selected few. So that is the greatest problem that we have to see for the success of the feminist movement or the feminist wave. It has to, a lot has to be done. And
Dr.
sir,
Rao,
sir,
why at all there is feminist movement? That is the
because
question.
they,
That
because
is
at
the
last they are
question.
discriminated, because at last they are discriminated, and their voices has been crushed. They are put to an underprivileged status. The male domination has put themselves on a privileged stage, and they have pushed them to subjugation. So that has been a cry over the years. And those who feel they are liberated through this feminist wave or the feminist movement, they are only a selected few. And there have been again a problem for the male side, and there is a huge cry of masculinism even in the West, because they have now raised a voice that we are discriminated
And
by
and
large,
and in bracket, in spite of their greatness,
in spite of
in
their
their greatness,
whose greatness, woman.
yes, in spite
Yes,
of
yes,
their greatness, they are crying for empowerment. They are crying for equality, and there is a feminist movement. This is the irony.
yes. That is the problem. That is the problem. As you said, as Professor Maraji even said, that God is gender neutral. But even in any text you refer to, even in Hinduism, we don't refer Brahman as she. We refer as he with a capital H. So that is the crisis.
Yes, that is the
That is
blunder. That is the
gender
blunder.
neutral.
Basically,
We
Those
should
those
refer.
who those who
yeah.
write he,
Huh.
he is not a great scholar, sir. That is a blunder also.
No. How do you say that? Okay,
Basically,
because all the scholars,
basically,
right from the
I,
west to east,
yeah,
God has been referred with a capital H. So that is the crisis from the
yeah.
religion itself.
Sorry,
Just
Discrimination
I
has
I
want,
have
started.
my
just I
point.
We
want
should
to
not
add
neglect
one
that.
point. Add one point. That is, for
I have my
example,
point.
as there has been Renaissance and there has been Enlightenment in the West. Why it was there? Because there was oppression on the side of
Some people used to say that in C there is he. He is there in SHE. So in that
Basically,
way,
these are the debates of modern times. These are the
yeah.
debates when the religion was revealed. So in this way, had the feminist movement would have been existing those days, such type of discussion would have been made by religious people as well. But there is possibility of giving women her rights within religion, within philosophy, within culture, and she is counterpart of man in that way. She is not less
Yes,
or she is not
Professor
more than man. We can say,
And I
Professor
shall salute.
Maraji.
Srinivasanji,
yeah.
1 minute, 1 minute. I shall salute Professor Maraji in the series of his talks. He has favored feminism from the perspective of philosophy, from the perspective of literature, from the perspective of religion. And today he delivered a very beautiful talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, okay, I have my point. When we are speaking about God, we always speak gender neutral and other things. But unfortunately, in Hindu religion, there is a there is a very valid point on human rights of women exclusively. The Lord Shiva projects himself as Ardhanarishwara, which is totally forgotten by us here. That means he has given equal rights for women also. He is holding the Lord Parvati on his hip and say to the world that the festivity is going on for years together in Sankarnarayana Koil in Tamil Nadu. That you can just see and happen to see. It's a wonderful festival there, Ardhanarishwara.
Oh,
So
thank
this is my valid point on human rights.
Professor Maraji. Professor Maraji,
Yeah.
I have observed animals because I
Mhm.
am very much close to them. I have seen that there is no feminist movement in animal kingdom because a male dog quarrels with another male dog, but if there is a female dog in the group of male dogs, all of them love the female dog and they take care of it. I have never seen that a male dog and a female dog they quarrel. I have seen their love. So there is no, the male dogs are not, they don't have a male dominating character. So even plants also. So this feminist movement is only a human possibility. So this is the irony, and this is a mockery to our rationality.
Basically, I think so that
This is coming out of the human rationality. You see,
Yes,
women
sir.
they
Yes,
also
sir.
can express their rationality,
Yes, sir.
the,
Yes,
the
sir.
power of thinking.
I
It
think
may be a
for example,
psychological one, but
yeah.
still, we don't. What we don't find in animal kingdom and plant kingdom is found in human society, in human affairs.
But basically, there's no domination. There's no domination, or there's
Yeah.
no dominant character. There is their roles, as has been said by someone. The roles are different, but not because of domination. There are several roles which only women can play. Men can't play at all. So the bearing of children, that is only the prerogative of women, and men can't. They can't, hold their children, handle their children for 5 minutes, especially the infant ones. Only woman has that capacity and that patience that she can bear, and she can rear the children, and father can't do that.
Yes, yes,
And there are
yes.
some qualities which are only possessed by women, not by men.
Very
But
nice,
there are
very
some
nice.
qualities which are possessed by men only. So there are roles are different, not the status. Status is same. Roles are different because
Professor
of
Marazi, one
biological
thing
and other reasons.
you can see the question of sex change. Now, in case of a sex change, again, we can make many thought experiments, whether the feminists are right or wrong, or whether the movement is having its justification. We can bring many thought experiments.
That's
So
possible.
one of it is this sex change. Then there also will find that the person who changes his sex, then uh, is it possible for him to express the women characteristics always, as we find in women? So all these areas, we just cannot just say that this is
Yeah,
outright useless. But
that's true.
they are okay.
There's a
Thank
great
you.
debate on this. It needs a lot of debate, and the new issues will emerge with every passing time day. But basically, their roles ought to be defined, not the status. Status-wise, women and men are same because they are the creations of God, and they can be pious, they can be good, they can be bad, whether man or woman, and they have played very important. And as Professor Das has rightly said, women had been, as has been said by Rabia Basri also, when she was asked by someone that there had been no prophet among the women, she said there have been no person also among the women who has claimed to be God. No woman has claimed to be God, but men have, as Pharaoh,
That is
as
ego.
Pharaoh
That
and
is
Namrud.
male ego. Male
So women
ego.
have some good qualities also which men don't have. So in this way, we can see the good qualities of women and we can see the good qualities of men, and then see the roles of women and men. Rather than we should not discuss about whether he is inferior or she is inferior. No, no one is inferior. Our character makes what we are basically, and women can play a very important role, and they have been playing always. So we should not deny them their right. Mother has the
Shall I
greatest
take?
role after God. Mother has the greatest role after God in this universe. And
So
if there is
the
no mother, there is nothing in the world.
so the
So
so
in
the
this way, we cannot find motherly qualities in man. So this mother earth, mother language, mother tongue, so everything starts from mother.
yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
in this way, mother has more role sometimes than men and fathers, but men have also their position, and we need to not we need to balance between these two roles, and not to discriminate people because of their gender or their sex or their religion or their color or their race. Their character should be the basis of their respect and dignity rather than gender. So that's very important.
They should be given their proper due, sir.
Yeah, right.
They should be given and they should be
Can I
respected.
just say one observation here?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. You say, and
Sir?
we shall conclude, sir. Is with your
Okay, okay,
last observation, we shall
okay,
conclude. Yes.
okay, sir. See, the world is just jumping by leaps and bounds as far as feminism is concerned. That you'll have to agree. There is no more argument and counter arguments in that regard, that we have to give equal rights. Number two, there is a woman by name Nupur Saraswati in Singapore or Malaysia. I don't exactly remember. It's a feminist, a beautiful feminist, I would say, because he would like to present her observations, regards, and points and authoritarianism of male domination. She was usually, interpreting through story, but now she has switched over to poetry called a title called slam poetry, SLAM, slam poetry. If you Google search, you will be able to see her profile and see that she is doing a wonderful job that has been appreciated by many feminists across the world. And this is the recent trend in the feminism which is happening in the world. And by slam poetry, she conveys her feelings and counter arguments through poems, which is very really attractive, sir. This is one small bit of suggestion I would like to emphasize in this regard. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Professor Srinivasan. Well, uh, thank you. It's a wonderful lecture, and the discussion that followed was really beautiful. To conclude, let me tell one a personal feeling that the role conflict between men and women is more or less resolved. I feel the role conflict, but the status conflict is much there, and it is this conflict that needs to be seen religiously and also philosophically. It is only then the woman can be assured of their the due place in the society, in the family, in the society, and elsewhere. So, thank you, sir, Professor Marazi.
Dr. Rao,
Sir,
before you thanking all, I thank you for being with us in
okay, okay.
in all webinar programs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, well, it was a nice lecture, and we should first of all thank Professor Maraji for his nice lecture on feminism, and really it was a good lecture because it could attract a lot of discussion, and the discussion that followed really helped all of us to understand the issues concerning women, and we could also note a lot of things as to how women are discriminated, how looking into the history, Professor Maraji has shown us how the women were totally neglected in the past, and referring to the ages of the Plato and Aristotle, where the citizenship right, where the voting rights, everything was neglected. And with time, with the rise of feminist movement, the voting right, the citizenship right, it has come out, and the discrimination to an extent has been sorted out, but still a lot has to be done. Well, the feminist movement could succeed to an extent in ensuring rights to women, but it could not touch the core, the base, the root of the issues engulfing women throughout the world, and a lot has to be done. And the feminist movement has to, if it has to strengthen more, there is a lot of sanction from the religious side, but a lot of things have to be done to bridge out the gap between what has been taught religiously and what has been in real practice, because that gap has to be sorted out, and philosophically much has to be done so that equal rights are ensured for women, and they are given due status in the society and elsewhere. So I thank Professor Maraji for his lecture, and also thank Professor D. Pramod sir for his views on improving the quality of human life through the attempts at various levels, maybe from the government or the NGOs or the public involvement, wherein we can improve the quality of life, and we can assure a sort of a beautiful planet, green planet, wherein focus is given to cleanliness, focus is given to human relationship, focus is given to agriculture, because that is the primary energy source where we can sustain, because people are moving away from it, and he has raised certain questions so that we can really clear up the planet from various toxics and make it clean and green, and so that the human civilization can and grow well and well. And he has pointed out what are the business avenues that could be available in creating, say, ensuring the qualitative infrastructure, and how the business avenues can come up and it can give generate employment. So it is again an area which much can be done. So I should also thank Professor D. Pramod for his attempt, and also thank Professor Ranjit Gosar, who initiates discussions and a lot of good things that he brings in, and that creates a ground for carrying on further discussions. And thank Professor Ranjit Gosar. Also thank Professor Srinivasan Krishnamurthy sir for his questions and his observations, and also thank Swagatika Das for her questions, and also thank our admin Pramod Kumar Das sir for his observations, and his observations make sense because he's so simple in his approach that is clearly understandable, and that makes a lot of beauty for all of us. And I thank him, and also thank one and all for making this evening so beautiful and making this webinar so successful. And also thank all the participants, including Professor Abdul Aziz and Professor Abdul Washe, and all others who have attended this webinar and made this evening so beautiful. I also thank Renubala Sundara and Kalyani Sadangi Madam for attending this program. And I once again thank all. And I also request Professor Marazi to be prepared with another lecture on women and religion, and we can have a further discussion on this. So
I am ready, sir. Thank you, sir. I am ready for that as well.
thank you
all. Thank you.
Thank you. So thanking everybody. Let's move to Professor Das for declaring this meeting closed. Namaskar, everybody. Good night.